Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning into another My Life As a. Today we are talking to Jessie, who is a cosplayer.
Hello.
So, hi. So, for people who don't know what that means, can you explain what is cosplay?
So cosplay, the word cosplay comes from two very common words, costume and play, and you stick them together and you got cosplay. So essentially it's dressing up in a costume of a character and then going out and taking pictures. Some people act in character as their character, and some people just kind of wear the costume and then pose for pictures.
So, where and how do people usually participate in cosplay? I imagine that there's specific places that people like to go to do it.
Yeah, so traditionally, most cosplay happens at conventions. If you think of like a Comic Con, Fan Expo, Anime North, if you've heard of that one, they're usually these big events where fans get together and people dress up. It's not required that you cosplay to go to the conventions. A lot of people have that misconception, but a lot of people do because that's where they meet a lot of their friends who are into the same interests. It can be hard to find other people who like dressing up in costume as characters. So that's a good place to meet people who you already know or meet new people who are interested in the same things as you. There's also a lot of new stuff happening with the internet, especially now that conventions aren't really happening due to COVID. So a lot of people are going online on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. TikTok is huge for cosplay because it's really easy to just quickly dress up and do a little clip and then post it online and share it everywhere.
Yeah, okay. So that's really cool. Actually, I was one of my questions was, do you know of virtual places you can participate? But you just answered that, so that's good. TikTok.
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get started in cosplay? What got you started in
Oh
this?
gosh, well, I'm much older than I look, so this is a long time ago. So when I was growing up, if you're from Ontario, you've probably heard of something called YTV, which is a TV channel that used to show anime, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, all the cool stuff back in the day. And they would show interviews when these big conventions would happen, and they'd interview people who were cosplaying. And so I saw this on TV, and I was like 12 years old, and I thought, I need to do that thing. It's cool. Why? I'm a weirdo. That's my only real answer. It just looked fun. I like fun stuff. And so from there, I kind of tried to learn as much as I could. This was back when the internet was first kind of becoming common in households. And so there wasn't a lot of information online. And I just kind of cobbled together something from a thrift store that looked like a character I liked. And I went to a convention, and my new life as a cosplayer began.
Okay. So you dress up as different characters from, I guess, like comic books and movies and stuff?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of different sources.
Okay. And do you have a favorite character that you like to play? Do you repeat characters? Do you have a specific one?
So I do repeat characters and wear like the same costume to different events. With cosplay, a lot of the time there's a lot of resources that go into it. Either if you're making it, it takes a lot of time and money to buy the materials, or if you're buying it, it takes a lot of money to buy it and then time to wait for it to ship to you. So people like to wear the same costume over and over. But it's also addictive to make new costumes and be different characters because you can kind of play that role and be someone who's really different than you. So my favorite cosplay is a really hard question. There's a few. I recently cosplayed someone named Klaus Hargreaves from Umbrella Academy, which is a really popular Netflix series. And he's this kind of how shall we describe Klaus? Hippy dippy? Is that a good word? He's kind of out of it. He can see ghosts and he just kind of is going with the flow with his life. And I cosplayed a version of him that only appears in one episode where he's just wearing a towel around his body and then a towel on his head. Maybe we can add a picture at the end because I have one.
Okay,
uh,
that's fun.
so that was a fun one to wear, walking around a convention where everyone can see you in a towel. And then another one I really like wearing is a character named Doof, or the Doof Warrior, from a movie called Mad Max Fury Road. He's a character that most people don't know his name, but when you see him on the screen, you immediately know because he plays a twin neck guitar and
Mm.
wears a red onesie and has this crazy mask on his face. And he's incredible. He has no speaking parts in the movie, and he's just really cool. And I love cosplaying him because I basically get to rock out and people see the guitar coming and they go, that's cool. And I say, thank you, I made it. And then we pose for pictures. So
That's really cool. Yeah. So you typically make your own costumes. Is that like, do people normally make their costumes? Do they normally buy them? How do you get your costumes if you want to start cosplaying?
yeah. So like I was saying before, I kind of started cosplaying back when it wasn't as big a thing. We didn't have TikTok back then, guys. And so most people had to make their costumes because it's really hard to just go out and find a store that sells a costume of a crazy Duke Warrior onesie, or a Sailor Scout, or a Dragon Ball Z character. And this was before online shopping was huge, so we didn't have a lot of online sources to just buy stuff either. So I make a lot of my costumes just because that's my background, it's what I'm used to. So when I make a costume, there's a whole process. I usually start by looking at a picture of the character from different angles. I want to know what the front of their costume looks like, what the back looks like. I like thinking about why they're wearing what they're wearing, because usually there's a purpose if it's a good costume design, or it just looks cool sometimes. And then I think about what materials would fit the costume. So if it's like a fabric-based costume, like a dress or a shirt and pants, I'll look at, is it shiny? Is it stretchy? For example, with Doof, I had to make that onesie, and I had to make it out of kind of a stretchy material because it just goes on. I actually didn't put a zipper in it, which is kind of a bad idea. If you're not putting a zipper in, make sure your fabric's stretchy. And then he has his guitar, like I mentioned, so that's a big prop. And that's a whole other side of cosplay where you have to figure out what materials can I use to make this, because the materials it's made out of in the source are maybe not real.
Right.
For example, like in Sailor Moon, they have their moon wands, or what else is like a huge prop? Like swords or different weapons. Like obviously you don't want to bring a real sword into a public place like a convention. First of all, it's illegal. Second of all, you'll get in big trouble, and then you could get arrested. There's lots of stories. So for that guitar, that was fun because it was based in reality, because it's set in the far future apocalyptic world. And so the base of the guitar is actually a bedpan. But you wouldn't think it's really hard to find a bedpan, but it was. I had to go to a specialty store to get that bedpan. And then I stuck a bunch of stuff called Warbla on it. Warbla is this really cool material where when you heat it up, it becomes softer. It's like a big sheet of thermoplastic. The thermo is for heat and plastic is for plastic. When you heat it up, it's soft, and then when it cools down at room temperature, it's hard again, so you can make it into any shape. So I covered the bedpan in that, and then attached a whole bunch of stuff, and then used some foam, and basically a bunch of dollar store stuff went into it. Bam, a guitar.
Do you have a near you that you can show us what it looks like?
I have it. I put it in my basement, unfortunately. So it's a little hard. I used to live over here, but I do have a picture, so we can add a picture here or later. Cool. And you'll see it in its full.
Yeah. So I'm going to put some pictures on the ends, so if anybody's interested in seeing Jessie's costumes, you can see them.
I love that guitar.
So if somebody's not crafty, like maybe they don't know how to sew, it seems like a good time maybe to start playing with cosplay if it's something that you're interested in, because we can't really do much else. What can they do? How can they get costumes if they're not really a sewing person?
So if you don't really know how to sew or craft or do any of that, don't be afraid. It is easier than ever to get into cosplay thanks to the internet. So almost any costume you can think of is now available online. There's a ton of websites. There's something called Cosplay Sky. There's AliExpress, which is a Chinese website that sells everything. There's tons of wig websites. There's a Canadian/American company called Arta Wigs, which is amazing. They have the best quality wigs ever, and they actually sponsor RuPaul's Drag Race now, which is insane to me. Because when I started, wigs were not easy to come by. You have to go to Spirit Halloween and get those not nice quality ones, and you would dye them using like Sharpies that you cut open and put into a bowl with some water, and you dip your wig in. Nope, now you can get wigs of any color, any style, whatever you want. So if you're really afraid, go online, see what's out there, go from there, and then your first things that you'll probably learn to do in terms of being crafty is actually, what's that word for when you, tailoring. That's the word I was looking for. You'll probably learn how to tailor, so make pants shorter, or make shirts fit you better, because when you buy online, of course, it's going to be a size small, medium, large, whatever, but it probably won't be a custom fit. So it's not going to fit you perfectly. And just learning to do small things like that, like learning how to hem your pants, will make a huge difference. And then if you really want to get into that sewing and crafty side, like Virginia was saying, it's a perfect time to be crafty because you can't go out anyway. So just grab a bunch of stuff from the craft store, look on YouTube for tons of tutorials, which again, were not there when I got started, and you will learn to make anything you want. There's so much free information, and if you really get into it, you can buy books from professional cosplayers and they will teach you everything. They're amazing.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody, if they're watching it, they seem to have the bits and pieces to get started and able to do their own research if that's something that they're interested in. So, so you had mentioned TikTok and Instagram and Facebook as like social media as places to share your costumes. Do you know of any like virtual conferences or anything like that where people are sharing them?
So I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know a lot of the major conventions have been shifting to online. So for example, there was one called Crunchyroll Expo. Crunchyroll is like an online platform where you can stream anime. And so they did a lot of things online. I want to say New York Comic Con. The big one is San Diego Comic-Con. They're probably doing some online things. And it's really cool because they've had like online cosplay competitions. They do online panels where there's like guests, sometimes celebrity guests, that discuss different issues going on or different series that they like, and you can just watch and, you know, discuss in the chat and be part of it. So essentially conventions are just all online now, and just Google one that you like or Google online convention and you will find something, I promise. And it may be free. Some of them may have like a virtual ticket. It kind of depends, but I'm sure there's a lot of free ones out there.
Cool. So, and then also you could always organize something with your friends as well. So yeah. There's always, you could do a Zoom conference of your friends and show your cosplay. So that's always nice too. Okay, was there anything else you wanted to share with us? Any ideas, any thoughts?
Oh my gosh, I could talk about cosplay forever. I've been cosplaying for over 15 years, believe it or not. And it changed a lot. Before this, I was actually going back, and one of my favorite things to do when conventions still happened, when I was like putting on my makeup and putting on my costume and getting ready for the day, I would always play these things called cosplay music videos on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and type in cosplay music video, there are these essentially music videos with like fun songs and just different clips of cosplayers doing cool poses and moving around, and they got me so excited. So before this, I watched a bunch because it was the same kind of feeling of like, oh, cosplay, like it's so fun, exciting. It's such a good and like wholesome activity because you learn how to make things, or at least how to kind of, even if you're not making it from scratch, you learn how to kind of fix things and adjust them to your body. And like I was saying before, you really get to inhabit someone else. So I'm a big proponent of cosplay as a positive kind of exercise to work on things that you might not like about yourself. So I used to be very not confident. I didn't like to like talk. I wasn't a big public speaker. And then once I kind of started cosplaying, I got a lot better at it, because when I would talk to people in costume, first of all, everyone's excited because you're wearing a costume. Even if you don't think it's good, people will think it's good. Trust me, do not be afraid. People are great in cosplay. Like, they are so kind. And so just from like having those experiences of having that kind of armor that we call it, cosplay armor, like you can talk to people because it's not really you. Like, you're not really showing yourself. You're this character, or you're this person who's kind of covered up with something that acts as that barrier to sort of protect you until you feel comfortable enough to kind of be more open about yourself. So that long rant is basically to say cosplay is the best. You should definitely try it. If you can, get like a bunch of friends together or your family together, because doing cosplay as a group is a million times more fun than doing it by yourself. For example, I was part of this huge Lord of the Rings group. I have a picture that hopefully we can put in at some point. And we went out to Scarborough Bluffs. We had like every member of the Fellowship of the Rings, all the hobbits. We had Legolas, we had Gimli, we had Aragorn, everybody. We had an orc, which was awesome. And we just had a whole day where we ate snacks, as hobbits do, and took pictures and just goofed around because we all like Lord of the Rings. and it was amazing. So even now with conventions and stuff not happening, if you have your little bubble of people that you can hang out with, try and put something together, you know, just do a photo shoot in your backyard or somewhere where it's safe to go in public, like a park if a park's open and no one's around. Just go take some pictures, make some TikTok videos, and have a good time.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that you mentioned the cosplay armor, because I think for a lot of people, maybe the barrier is feeling too shy to try dressing up, like the feeling of like, oh, well, I look silly or whatever. But I think maybe once you have it on, like you said, you can inhabit a new character, and that kind of feeling of embarrassment maybe goes away a little bit.
And the first time you wear a costume, a new costume, and you go to a convention or something and someone calls you by that character's name, I cannot explain that feeling. It's incredible. Like just hearing someone say, oh, it's Klaus, or oh, that's, you know, Sailor Moon, or whatever character you are, or Batman, whatever character you want to do. Just that, knowing that the people who look at you are not thinking, oh, that's a random person, or oh, that's Jessie. They're thinking, oh my gosh, that's a character I know from a show or a comic or whatever that I like. Oh my gosh, they're real. It's magic. It's so hard to explain. You have to experience it. There's a really great video I want to recommend by Alton Brown, I believe it is. No, not Alton Brown. I forget his name. But anyway, he's a really cool guy. He was on that show about making stuff and then trying to figure out if it was real or not. Mythbusters. He was on that show. And he has a whole TED Talk about cosplay. So just look up Mythbusters TED Talk cosplay, you'll find it. And he talks about that magic, that experience of being a character, and then even just interacting with other people who are in a costume from the same series, and how it becomes this like interactive drama that couldn't happen otherwise. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. And part of that is because it's impossible to explain, because you have to feel it. It's a very emotion-driven experience. So, sorry for the ramble.
That's okay. No, it's cool. And it's nice to hear somebody, you're really enthusiastic about it. So I think that hopefully transmits to other people, and maybe they'll give it a try. Maybe they've been a little bit shy about it or haven't really known how to get started. So that's really cool. I hope somebody, you know, maybe gets a little bit more courage.
Yeah. And you can always just put it on in your bedroom. You don't have to go outside or go in your backyard and have your mom take pictures of you, or your friend or someone you trust. Like, just have fun, goof around, take your time. There's no pressure, there's no conventions to go to, so it's not like you have to do what we call con crunch and make sure your costume's done on time for the convention. That's out the window. You can just do whatever you want now.
No, you have all the time to perfect it, so that when the conferences do come, you'll be ready to go.
But also don't worry too much about perfection, because as with any kind of artistic endeavor, you're never going to be perfect. The costume is never going to be exactly what you want. It just give up on that, because the sooner you just tell yourself, you know, I'm going to make it to the best of my current ability, and once I make it, my skill will go up, and if I want to improve it, I can do it then. The trick is to just go for it. Stop second guessing yourself, just take the action, go for it, and then you'll get better and better the more you do. My first costume was terrible. Like I said, like Spirit Halloween wig, a baggy old shirt. I took it off halfway through the convention because I was embarrassed. But then I came back, and now I make all this stuff, and you'll see pictures of all the stuff I've made, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's really cool. Thank you for sharing something that you're clearly very enthusiastic about, and I hope that enthusiasm transmits to somebody who wants to try it out, and maybe people learned a little bit more about something they didn't know about. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for taking the time to chat with us, and I hope everybody enjoyed this. So, all right.
Thanks
Jessie.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.